was gonna try this synthetic fish tank cleaner. I was actually pretty scared. This compound is a miracle. My name is Vance Elrod. I'm a professional MMA fighter out of Las Vegas, Nevada. If you click this video, you probably heard a little bit about Methylene Blue. So I won't get into the history of the benefits just yet. I'm gonna get into my anecdotal experience with Methylene Blue first, and then we could talk about that. Methylene Blue quite literally saved my brain. In 2022, I made my professional MMA debut. I ended up fighting someone who popped for steroids. I threw a big check hook. He leaped in with the overhand. His overhand beat my check hook, and I got my face shattered in 3 ways. I then laid there and ate 20 to 30 more concussive strikes on the ground while I was pretty much defenseless. Was winning the whole fight, but I was in bad shape at that time. So we followed up with doctor's appointments for months to see whether or not I was going to get surgery to restore the fat in my eye and fix my shattered orbital, and also to get my thumb reattached back to my hand. When I landed in Las Vegas, I already had what felt like a 10 out of 10 concussion, but it like severely got worse. Everything would spin when I laid my head down. I felt depressed as could be, but not like sad, more like my brain was undergoing an energy crisis. Couldn't think straight, couldn't think linearly, I could not articulate myself. Everything just seemed kind of black and white and gray and dull. I couldn't think to save my life. Like normal thought processes were a burden, and it just felt like I didn't have energy, almost like a weighted blanket was on me. So growing up, I played football my whole life, and I am now a decade into fighting. So I'm no stranger to concussive impact. And I'm also a fanatic with research. I am constantly researching how to increase my performance and also how to save my brain, because CTE is one of my biggest fears. So while I was concussed when I got home, I was going through my notes for concussion protocols that I had scattered around, and I decided to compile them all together and make an ebook. I started sending it out to friends to kind of read and review it as a rough draft. Me being concussed and writing that ebook was actually fairly impressive, by the way. I wrote a concussion protocol ebook while I was concussed. One of my friends, after I asked them to review the book for me, sent back a question asking me why I did not elaborate more on Methylene Blue. And I told him, hey, I couldn't find enough research on it. It seemed like it could be promising, but there's not a lot going on with it. And he told me pretty flat out, look again. So what happened back then was I had to go past the first page of Google, and then I started to see all the research on Methylene Blue and all the stuff I had no idea about. I mean, Methylene Blue's been around since the 1800s. It was our first malaria medication. Everyone in World War I had to take Methylene Blue if they were in the Navy. The research on it being neuroprotective, on it healing traumatic brain injury, on it increasing short-term, long-term memory, all the research was compiled already. I just had no idea it was there. So I think I did like an 8-hour stint of research on Methylene Blue that night, and I made up my mind immediately that I was gonna try this synthetic fish tank cleaner and see if it could heal my brain. But to give you guys a timeline, I got a concussion a year before that lasted about 2 to 3 months with symptoms, and the concussion was about half or a quarter as bad as this one. I've never gotten my face shattered and then ate 30 punches after the fact, just my head dribbling off the ground. So it was intense. It was bad. I was actually pretty scared for my end of life. Not my life then, but how my life was gonna turn out when I was 40, 50, or 60. So I ordered some weird powder off the interweb that was blue. I asked Alexa how to put it all together in my kitchen, and I still don't know if I made the dosage right or not, because you have to reconstitute it. And 1 week exactly after my fight, I had my first batch of Methylene Blue made. So I took my first dose, which I think was 5 milligrams, but I'm still not sure. And within 3 to 5 minutes, I started to notice a little bit of a zing. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough for me to go like, like I feel that, and it's different, and it feels like energy, but it's not the same as like energy, like if I drank a coffee. It was weird. Said, okay, no big deal. I ended up taking another dose that night, and then I kept dosing the following week. 2 weeks had gone by, and we were scheduled to go see the eye doctor to decide if we were going to get facial surgery still. And that is when I started to have profound benefits from the Methylene Blue. So when your brain is concussed, it has an energy crisis going on in the brain. Glycolysis can be impaired. So you kind of go from hyper metabolic rate inside the brain. So your brain basically uses up all the glucose, and then it kind of is impaired in using glucose. So I went for a low carb diet right off the bat after getting my head smashed, which sucked because I just lost like 20 pounds from my fight. And then right after my fight, I just wanted to celebrate, eat a Pizookie, have some beer, something like that. Couldn't do any of that. I had to go right back into low carb. But I was very strict. I was very disciplined with my protocol. I was on like 20 supplements, and my brain started to heal rapidly. So we're 3 weeks post-fight, we're going to the doctor, and my brain feels 99% recovered. And I'm blown away. My ego is through the roof right now because I think it's all the work that I put into my research and my protocol, and I thought I just nailed it. And I had no idea whether it was the Methylene Blue or it was the low carb diet. All these things were going on. When I started to change my mind was another 2 weeks down the road, my brain started to feel better than before my fight. So at this time, I had reintroduced carbs into my diet. I started having a little bit of cheat meals. I think I even went out and drank one night because my head felt symptom free. I started working out again, but my brain kept getting what felt like better and better and better. Colors seemed brighter. I could sit down, I could focus for hours. I had like no ADD, ADHD symptoms. I could think linearly. I could articulate myself 10 times better than ever before. I could think of multiple things at once, get them done. I was task oriented. I also cut my caffeine in half. I wasn't crashing at 2 p.m. I had energy, but it didn't feel like stimulant energy. I felt like my body had energy. And I started to kind of question everything that was going on. I'm like, I don't feel normal. Like, I don't feel bad. I just don't feel normal. I feel really good. Like, what the hell's going on? And the only thing I was still taking was the methylene blue. As I go back into the research and I start to discover that methylene blue does act profoundly on the brain a lot more than I first thought. So methylene blue can induce mitophagy. It can repair mitochondria. It can go in and actually stop electron slippage and stop neurodegeneration from superoxide or reactive oxygen species. It can do all these amazing things in the mitochondria. I didn't know how or why, what was going on. I just knew that I felt better. So I started to deep dive it and learn about what methylene blue does, and that takes you down into the electron transport chain, the mitochondria. You get down all these rabbit holes and you start to realize, wow, like this compound is a miracle. It literally is a miracle. And why is this not more mainstream? Then you start seeing the research on it during the pandemic, how they were pulling people off respirators with it because it can control that inflammatory nausea, how it's antiviral, how you can use it topically to kill MRSA, staph, ringworm, funguses. You could shove it above coral reefs to protect them from UV light, how if you use it topically, it's anti-aging, it's a skin protectant from UV damage, it increases wound healing. It's such a versatile compound, but you have to understand how it works on the cellular level. But that's when I went all in and I realized, holy cow, like we are sitting on a miracle compound and this needs to be more mainstream. That's when I started my Twitter. That's when I started my company, Meraki Medicinal, where Methylene Blue is our flagship. And that's when I started to get it out to everyone. Our company grew massively, not because I'm a good business person. I know nothing about business. My company grew massively because Methylene Blue works amazingly. Now, there are loopholes with the FDA, so you cannot tell anyone to ingest Methylene Blue. And this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm telling you my anecdotal experience with Methylene Blue. It's up for you to go see a professional healthcare specialist and ask them if they would recommend you take it, your healthcare provider. Not Vance, who does, a few hours of research here and there. Maybe I'm modest, but go and seek professional help, because me as a company and as a person, I cannot tell you to go take something that is a fish tank cleaner or a dye and it also interacts with SSRIs. Like, it's something that you need to understand how powerful it is, and there could be a detriment to you trying it and taking it. I've been on Methylene Blue now for 21 months. I just feel like I did not know how rusty my brain was and how clean it is now. It is insane. When I was on the couch concussed, I remember I had this thought one day. I was just going to have CTE now, especially from that last fight, and I made my choice to be a fighter, or I was put on this earth to fight, and I need to keep fighting. I need to stop thinking about it and just let it go. That's how far in I was with my worry about CTE. I was so ready just to accept it. Now my fear for CTE is like 0.1% of what it used to be. That's how profound I think Methylene Blue, fasting, what I know about brain health put all together could do for someone's brain. And when you learn about how plastic the brain is and how quick it can heal itself, it gives you that glimmer of hope that, like, hey, well, maybe these neurodegenerative diseases or CTE or TBIs or concussion symptoms that last, or chronic fatigue, all those things can actually be combated. I mean, Methylene Blue even changed the way I look at depression, not from a chemical compound standpoint, but more of an energy crisis in the brain standpoint. If you look at everything you do in your life, you have 90 million things that will insult your mitochondrial health, and Methylene Blue can get in there and start repairing it, and you will feel benefits that you didn't feel before. Another thing is a little personal. I don't like to talk about a lot, but I do have some clinical OCD. Not like, oh, I need my room clean. Like, I can tell you any number and its corresponding letter in the alphabet, or vice versa. Like V, 22nd letter of the alphabet. Give me P. Okay, that's the 16th letter of the alphabet. Because I constantly take things that I'm going to eat or take things that I see and I put a number on it, name them, and then I do this math equation whether or not I can have that or not have that. So you see where I'm going with this. When I tell you my brain started to feel better than before, that was one of the first things I noticed was my OCD kind of melted away. Still there for sure, but it's not in control at all. Its power went from like a huge monster inside of me, not even a monster, I hate saying it like that, but it was powerful, and now it's not. It's not even a bother whatsoever. I can do things that I'm not supposed to in my mental. And so that's another thing that started to get me looking more deep into the research on how it interacts with the brain, and how we think a lot of these ailments or diseases in the brain really can be cured, not just through pharmaceuticals, or you were just born that way, or you caught this. Actually, how you can increase your cellular function and maybe combat them that way. Maybe. I'm not sure all the way. I don't want to attack anyone more so who is going through something and feels helpless, because that's not a good feeling. So I don't want to speak out of turn. I truly believe that you can fix it through a cellular function, but I also understand how hard it is. So let me just clear the air. just want to be completely honest with you guys. Now, safety, dosages. I did 5 milligrams twice a day. Some days I would do 15 milligrams. So if you go to the ER today and you overdose on cyanide or carbon monoxide poisoning and you get methemoglobinemia, they'll shoot you up with 3 to 5 milligrams per kilogram of methylene blue into you. So if you're a 70 kilo person, you might get 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams of methylene blue. High dose, okay? Now what you need to understand is methylene blue low dose is an antioxidant in the mitochondria, and it does some things with the electron transport chain. Methylene blue high dose interacts with blood oxygen. It functions a lot differently in the body at a higher dose than it does as a lower dose. It actually can be an oxidative stressor at a higher dose. I do not advocate for high dose methylene blue. Add on more risk with possibly less reward. It's a no blue brainer. Like, you don't do that. 5 to 15 milligrams is my sweet spot. Some people don't feel it. They want to feel it, so they do a little bit more. Still don't advocate for it. I don't think it's something that you necessarily need to feel. It's not a stimulant. It's working in the background. What you will notice with methylene blue, if you have decent mitochondrial health, is you'll just notice a little zing. That's it. It's like your body has a little bit more of its own energy, not like you're on a stimulant. Some people, though, will take it and have profound benefits right off the bat. It's night or day difference. Kind of like me. Like, I literally was having profound benefits where I was like, yo, something's not right. Some people it takes a little bit longer. Some people it takes a little bit more. Methylene blue. Obviously, this is not medical advice. I'm not a professional. I'm not telling you what to take. I'm just telling you what I found that people tell me that they've taken, what I've seen through the research, and what I take. So 5 to 15 milligrams. I do it orally. You can mix it with orange juice. The vitamin C will react with it and kind of make the methylene blue clear, or you'll get a green juice, which is cool. And you will pee blue or green. That is something you need to know. You're not dying, but you will pee blue or green. So that is a good dose. I know IV clinics might do 70 milligrams. Those are more so for medicinal reasons. As far as like Lyme disease, people use it for lupus. They'll use higher doses for things like that. I don't recommend that. It is anti-parasitic, antimicrobial. That's why it's a fish tank cleaner as well. And the rat studies show that it doesn't really mess with good bacteria in the gut. It more so disrupts biofilm and attacks bad bacteria in the gut. So you'll have great markers in the gut when you take methylene blue. You won't ruin your good bacteria, which is cool because the mice study that shows that also shows that increased their IQ a little bit, which is great. So the short-term, long-term memory boosting effects of methylene blue could be just from the gut-brain axis. Not really. We know it acts on the mitochondria in the brain. But anyways, it does also help through the gut. Safety is a huge one. Okay, you do not want to take methylene blues if you are on an MAOI or an SSRI, which are antidepressants. Most pharmaceuticals do interact with methylene blue. I will say this, there has not been one single dose of serotonin syndrome, which is what you're risking when you take an antidepressant with methylene blue at doses under 70 milligrams. I think there's one instance at 70 milligrams, someone got serotonin syndrome and they were on pharmaceutical SSRIs as well. Other than that, there's no deaths underneath 70 milligrams, no real hospital visits from 70 milligrams that are like profound, none that we've seen. The real risk at under 70 milligrams is a Herxheimer reaction. And that is when you kill off bad bacteria and they release kind of a toxin in you and your body is detoxing from these bad bacterial kill-offs, and you will develop flu-like symptoms or a little bit of brain fog, or you feel kind of like jittery or like you're coming off a stimulant, something that you just feel down. That's a Herxheimer reaction, something you need to be aware of. Other interactions is if you have the MTHFR gene mutation, so you have problems with methylation, you could get headaches, you could get like a tyramine headache. So if you mix that with like salmon or chocolate, I did notice one day I got a dark chocolate headache taking methylene blue and dark chocolate. 90% sure that's what it was, just from what I know as a research. However, your body doesn't come with a check engine light and a code to show you all the time what's going on. But that was my anecdotal experience with dark chocolate and methylene blue. I also am very prone to migraines. I think I have the gene mutation with methylation that is wrong, but I'm not sure yet. I haven't got it tested. Always proceed with caution. Always talk to a medical care provider. Get off pharmaceuticals. Don't mix it with anything. Interacts with psychedelics as well. So if you do a microdose, you're a big microdoser, it will make it into a macrodose. That's something to be aware of. Now, cleanliness of the product is huge. Most people get theirs from India or China. It's a powder. They'll bring it in. They'll use their third-party lab tests from China and say, oh, it's the USP grade, which is United States Pharmaceutical Grade. And no, it's not actually, because they're either lying on their test or you didn't get it tested again. My company, we actually source from America. Ours is above USP grade. It's RX grade. And then we down credential it. It's a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of hassle. It was a lot of hoops and a lot of networking, but I got it done. Before that, I bought mine from, I think, India or the UK, but UK got it from India. And we got it third-party lab tested from there and it showed out clean. So there are clean sources, but I just highly recommend you want to see 1 or 2 or 3 tests done. Ours has 2 forms of third-party testing done and a certificate of analysis. Ours is a little bit more expensive because it's from America, but with that, I would always go clean before you risk it, because Non-USP grade methylene blue is allotted up to 7% for heavy metals. So you could literally just be taking a car bumper. So why are we going to take an antioxidant and a heavy metal? Doesn't make sense for the body. It's not healthy. Like I said, again, you can mix it with any cool drink. A lot of doctors don't know too much about it. I highly recommend you talk to one who does know about it, because the ones who do seem to understand the power of it and how well it can help with healing. I tweet on Twitter a ton about it. I have a list of every single study that I found that has to do with methylene blue and its benefits. Now, how to supercharge a methylene blue. Methylene blue mixed with light. So you can use near infrared light, you can use red light, but I prefer full spectrum sunlight. Now, the cool thing is sunlight can be an oxidative stressor on the body, right? So if you get sunburn, that means the UV rays were oxidative stress on your skin, and that's what happened. Methylene blue can act as an antioxidant. It also speeds up the mitochondria kind of the same way sunlight does. So you're gonna get the benefits of the sun while mitigating the damage, especially if you use it topically. I mean, the UV protecting studies are there. So you could sit out in the sun longer, get more benefits from the sun without the risk of the oxidative damage and the fears that we have with sunlight causing wrinkles or something worse, which I personally don't really jive with. But if you want to mitigate the damage, for sure use methylene blue. Methylene blue and grounding also is going to be awesome, because the free electrons you get from the earth, methylene blue also kind of acts in the way to speed up the mitochondria that those could actually help with. We get into it deeper and deeper, but I encourage you to check out Rob. So he is the Grounded Athlete, or Grounded Athlete on Instagram. He's a big grounding guy. He also has a cool company with grounded sandals. He is your expert there for light and circadian rhythm. I encourage you to check out Zaid. He is the man on Twitter and on Instagram talking about that. You can also look in Jack Cruz's work. And yeah, that's basically it. And I will continue posting more and more on methylene blue. We can deep dive some of the research and actually how it works in the cell, so you can literally like get a good picture of methylene blue and what it does in the mitochondria.